Hey crafty people, it's Tasha, back with another back to basics video tutorial for WOW Embossing Powder. Today, let's talk Emboss Resist and accepting that sometimes you're just not gonna like what you make. So taking a break, then coming back and pivoting is always okay. Jumping straight in with the sentiment. I'm lining my stamp up on my Misty door and I'm using the grid lines on there to make sure that it's nice and straight. I'm stamping with VersaFine Onyx Black onto an A2 panel of Nina Solar White 80 pound. Then I'm going to emboss that in clear gloss. The VersaFine ink takes longer to dry, which means it is fabulous for embossing. I do prefer stamping in black and then embossing in clear gloss. Now I'm going to mask off that sentiment with a piece of mint tape. So this is just a low tack tape that's perfect for masking off a section like this. I'm using my glass mat to make sure that my line is straight, and you can kind of see through the tape, which lets me check that I've got my sentiment in the middle. I want to keep that strip masked off whilst I work on the Emboss Resist element of my card. So I'm putting it into my big Misty with the mouse pad removed because I'm using a mounted red rubber stamp today. This one is a Hero Arts one from their recent birthday celebrations. Now, all WOW embossing powders have some brilliant anti-static properties built in. So I wouldn't usually need any anti-static powder, but I've already handled this quite a bit, so there could be oils from my fingers which would also attract the powder. So just to be safe, I'm giving it a quick once over before stamping my image in WOW's embossing ink. Then I can pour my clear gloss powder over the whole panel. The image has stamped over my mint tape mask, but that's not a problem at all. And I just don't kind of aim to cover that section with my powder, but if some does get on it, it's not a problem. I'm going to be leaving my mask on for a while longer, but always make sure you don't remove that before adding the powder, because there's going to be a very slight hint of stick left where it was, and that's definitely going to grab onto some powder, and we don't want that at all. You'll see the powder disappear as it melts, but you'll still see that gloss if you tip your panel in the light. Once it's all disappeared, you know that the whole thing is melted. Now we get to the resist part of Emboss Resist. That embossing isn't going to take on any wet medium that you put on top. It's going to resist it, and any that does sit on the embossing can simply just be wiped away with a dry cloth. Here I'm using an ink pad directly to the panel, and I'm going to do a little ink blending too. But this technique will work with inks, watercolour mediums of any kind, sprays, pigment powders. There's just so many options. I could have done this section in lots of colours, but I wanted to test out my new rose gold ink pad. I was having some issues getting the intensity that I wanted from this, which is why I switched to my domed foam blending tool. But again, it wasn't giving what I wanted it to, so I tried the direct paper again, but this time I put a bit more pressure behind it, and I did get a much better result then. Now that the colour is there, I can wipe off the excess ink from the top of the embossing. I use my dome foam again to collect some of that ink, but I do go in with a cloth as well in a minute. I know the metallic doesn't look much here, but in real life it is really beautiful when the light hits it. My original idea with this was that I'd do the metallic on top and red on the bottom. So I'm going in with a red now, which again will just wipe away off that embossing. I got a little trigger happy and almost removed the mask before I really cleaned off that embossing, but luckily I caught myself in time. You can see how that design pops through when you've cleared off the embossed lines. Then gently pulling up that mask to reveal a brilliant white strip that houses my sentiment beautifully. I love the technique, but I just wasn't feeling this and I wasn't even sure why. So I decided to just walk away, leave this some time to dry and come back with fresh eyes the following day. When I came back, I decided that I didn't like that red strip. So I grabbed these rounded jewel infinity dies and I like that so much more. I stamped the same balloons design in red for a tone-on-tone look and deepened the colour around the outside for extra contrast. I gave the Emboss Resist panel a glossy black border with the next size up infinity die, and I topped it with some red clay heart embellishments. Now, it's really okay to change your mind and pivot if you just aren't feeling how your art is turning out. Let us know in the comments if you've ever tried the Emboss Resist technique. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and if you aren't already subscribed to our channel, then please do consider hitting that button. The bell is going to notify you whenever we have a new video up. Have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.